going live right now. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to the quarantine sessions. Man, do we have a guest today. I am super, super excited to be speaking with Rhett Power, who was ranked the top #1 small business coach in the USA. He's a founder. He took his own business, his own startup, Wild Creations, to being one of the US most successful business, most fastest growing businesses. And he's also an author of 2 best-selling books. Rhett, thank you so much for joining the quarantine sessions.
Hey, it's delightful to be here. I love talking to you, Valentina. So it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And you're joining from Brazil, which is super, super interesting.
Yes, love it. You know, when we decided to stay in Brazil and not go back to the United States, I think it was the best choice we could have made. So happy to be calling in from Brazil today.
Right. So for all of our audience that is based in Egypt, the Middle East, Lebanon, and those in Europe as well, do you want to walk us a little bit through how you created Wild Creations, how you turned it into such a thriving business so fast?
Well, you know, this is actually it's an interesting question because we built that company during the last financial crisis.
Right.
And we started in 2007, early in 2007. You know, and by the end of the year, the world had changed. You know, by 2008 and 2009, the financial crisis hit. And the first year and a half, almost 2 years of the business, we really struggled. We had a new product, and businesses just didn't really want us. They didn't need it. The economy back then was really good, and so when we would go into a company and try to sell our new, it was a children's toy company, the toy stores would say, you know what, we're not interested, we don't need it, and they would, you know, push us out the door. And this happened all the time. And so when the financial crisis hit and people became more desperate, that's when the product actually got some traction, because it actually was one of the only thing, it was the only product in the store selling. And as stores started to pick up the product and give us a chance to try, they started telling their friends in other places. And in 2009, we went to Toy Fair in New York City, and 2 or 3 of our vendors stood up in the annual general meeting of all the toy stores and said, you've got to buy this product because it's the only thing in our store selling. And we walked out of there. We went into Toy Fair in New York as maybe $100,000 a year company. We walked out of Toy Fair in New York as a $9 million company. And and it was because of the recession. It was because of the financial times. It was because of people were desperate for something to help their stores get by. And so I look at these kind of opportunities. I look at what we're going through now, and as tragic as it is, as you know, unthinkable as it is on the human side, and what it's doing to our families and to our economies around the world, as a business, I look at it as, wow, what an opportunity. I mean, you look at what happened in 2008 in that financial crisis. We got companies like Uber and Airbnb and so much innovation. I mean, brand new concept kind of businesses, right? It completely disrupted industries. So I look at this and say, wow, you know, what is the opportunity that comes out of this? What is the opportunity in it for your business? And so that's my mindset when I look at what's going on today, and as we are in this pandemic, but you know, Wild Creations was built really because of that. It made us a better company because we didn't have money. It made us manage our money better. Mm-hmm. And I knew that we weren't going to get money anytime soon. So we had to think about, you know, what did we really need? What could we put off? What could we not do? What we could do without? It made us operate on a shoestring, and that financial management of our company lasted. It created such a culture in our business of strict financial management that it gave us discipline, and it gave us these things that sort of lasted in our culture and actually helped us, I think, survive other bumps in the road and other mistakes that we made. And we made our fair share. But the crisis actually helped us in so many ways come out a better company.
Right. This is very interesting because in this context today, so many people are discouraging entrepreneurs from starting their businesses. And I think your story is kind of, it bears testimony of you can actually make it, and you can go through a crisis and really in your early days and come out, even stronger, as you said.
Yeah, I think it really, really, really helped us. And I think if the economy would have kept going well, and we would have been in a really good economy for the couple years later, I don't know that we would have survived, honestly, because we couldn't get any traction in the market with our product. We knew we had a great product. Nobody else would give us a chance to show it until people got desperate. And so I think that for us, it was lucky. I mean, there is luck involved. There's no doubt about that. But we persisted just long enough to get to the point where we got that break.
Right. And in an industry that is not so easy, right? Like when you hear startups, you frequently don't think about that, right? What do you think was a key decision or a key step that you took that was fundamental? You were just mentioning people were loving the product. What was it about it that you think was kind of fundamental in its success?
I think it was unique. It was a little balanced ecosystem, and kids could and the reason we knew people loved it was we would go to these sort of consumer product shows, and it was the only way we were selling product, right? It was the only way we were getting any kind of sales whatsoever. And we would go on the weekends. During the week, we would make about 400 or 500 of these things. And during the weekend, we would get in our van and we would drive to New York, or we would drive to some other state, and we would go to these shows. And these are like these big weekend shows where the people come and they have booths everywhere. And it's like a festival kind of thing. And we would go to these festivals, and all weekend long, we'd have kids lined up like 6 and 7 deep, right? And they would love the product. They would come, and we had a bunch of different colors and a bunch of different types, and they would sit there for 30 minutes until they found the one that they fell in love with, right? And they would play with each thing, and it was at the time because we were making them by hand, and we could do a bunch of different things with it. And then they would buy that one. They would harass their mother or their father until they bought it. And they would sometimes come back like 5 or 6 times before they finally they convinced their parents that they wanted this. So we knew we had a product that kids loved. The disconnect was trying to get our retailers to see that enthusiasm, right? We didn't have all the social media back then where you could film it on Facebook and like watch those kids' eyes get this big. Like we didn't have those reactions, and we didn't really know anything about social media. It was really early in that. And so using it as a sales tool, which would have been a brilliant thing if we'd have had it back then. We didn't have that as much of that capability back then. So, we were trying to say, hey, kids love this thing, and the business owners are sitting there thinking, whatever, like, get out of my store. We didn't really have the proof of it until we had those retailers that actually took a chance on us.
Right. Now, you mentioned several times in interviews and in your website how diversity was so important to the building of your business, right? Our key core value, how diversity is really, really important and fundamental for innovation, basically. So how did that play a role in the success of your business?
Well, look, I mean, my business partner was a guy my age. were two guys, right? Um, two guys making the decisions on what the product should be never seemed like a great idea. And
Right.
I'll give you a prime example of how this actually played out to me yesterday. Even, I mean, you're talking about a business I started 7 or 15 years ago now. Yesterday, I'm writing a new book. My co-author is a guy my age, another white guy, right? We just brought on another co-author to actually bring some science into it. And she's a millennial, master's degree in like behavioral science. And she said, you know what, guys, I gotta tell you from the very start, I got a problem with the title.
Mm-hmm.
And your title is going to alienate women. And it's gonna kill half the audience that you're writing this book for. We got to work on the title, just the cover, the book cover, right?
Right.
And she was absolutely right. When we started thinking about it, because we were using languages, we were using the title, the working title was Warrior versus Worrier. And if you think about warrior, I mean, it's very militaristic or very man, right? And she was like, you got to work on this title, because if I walk by this on the shelf, I'm thinking this is a macho kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of consider myself an enlightened person to a degree. I like to think so, and I still like didn't catch that.
Right.
So I think diversity can play, diversity of age and gender and all the other ways you can think of diversity can help you make better products, right? It can help you think about the things that you just unconsciously, we all have unconscious bias, and it's not intentional. You can be a real ass and it be intentional, but most of us don't like to be like hurt others or like, think of ourselves as not enlightened and you know what I'm trying to say. I'm getting all on it, but I think it helps you make better decisions when you build a company with diversity, when you let other people express their thoughts and their opinions, and they're free to do that without judgment and without repercussion. I mean, I know in our toy company, it helped us make better product. It helped us make better decisions. If we hadn't brought on Gia on to help us write this book, we might have published this book and just unbeknownst to us, really excluded half our audience. And that's not the intent, right? So when you have diversity like that in the mix, in the conversation, you're going to make better product.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, startups need to solve problems, right? So when you can solve a problem from different angles and different points of view, you're only enriching the final product, as you said. I want to talk about mindset. I am very, very excited to hear your thoughts on success mindset. You talk about the success mindset, and I'll just give you an example. Today was a tough day for me. Today's one of those days where you feel, I'm not going to make it, and it's a lot of that narrative in your head. So how can you really work on success?
Well, look, success and in your mindset is hard no matter what, right? We all have ups and downs, and we all, particularly right now, we have a lot going on in our lives, and we have a lot that we're worried about. I mean, we're all going through this pandemic, and if you're not scared about it, then you're lying to yourself and you're lying to whomever you're saying that to, right? So let's be honest about that. I think part of it is in order to have a success mindset, there are things that you have to do. I think I was on a call this morning, and it was really insightful for me. And one of my mentors, Marshall Goldsmith, was saying to me, look, you got to take care of yourself first. And it's like being on the airplane, right? And you put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on the person next to you, the child next to you, or whatever. And I think that's a really good analogy, because if you're not getting enough sleep, enough to eat, or eating well or right for you, if you're not doing some of the things that make you who you are, and whatever that is, like you said, we were talking about this before we came on air, going for a run, right? What would you do right now if you couldn't go for a run,
Yeah.
right? You know, uh, so, so I think you got to do those things first and foremost, and that helps you, um, at least be a semblance of the person that you can be. I think acknowledging your fears, what scares you, what concerns you, put it out there. Like if you're talking to your team, start your meetings out by what are you excited about, what's worrying you, right? And when you can get those concerns out there in the open, and you feel like you've gotten them off your chest and you're not just holding it inside, I think it's easier to go to work and put that aside and go to work and do really good work. So I think that's essential. Talking about what's bothering you, what's scaring you, and everybody's got a different way they can do that, whether it's with a friend or a partner, whatever. But just do that, and I think you're going to see and feel a lot better. You're going to see some results out of that. And the other thing that I'm finding a lot of people talking about right now, and and I'm doing in some of my work, is get your teams together to solve the problems that you're facing. And what I mean by that is take a team approach to solving your business problems. Don't feel like you've got it all on your shoulders, because your team, the people
Right.
that you're managing, the people that you have around you, um, they have a vested interest in whatever you're doing right now, surviving and moving forward. And I think if you bring them in on the solutions, it goes back to that diversity conversation, right?
Yeah.
Bring them in and help them be part of the solution. You're going to feel better. Number one, that it's not all on your shoulders. Number two, they're going to feel better about your leadership, and they're going to feel better about where you're going and where you're taking the company or whatever. And I think the more people you can get on your team and around you to help make these next decisions that you're making right now and how you're going to move forward, I think the better you're going to feel, and the better you're going to have a better mindset about where you're going.
Right. Right. I think it's very important, right, what you're just saying, because when fear comes in, we are living a moment where we are afraid, not just for our
Yeah.
health, but we are afraid for about our economic, our financial future, and what's going to happen. So a lot of people, and we normally tend to sort of go to ourselves, right? Kind of like dig into ourselves and not think about each other and not engage with each other.
Right.
And this brings us to leadership as well, right? Like we need to work on our own leadership skills and how to deal with our team, who is also, they are also going through the same kind of fear and uncertainty.
Yeah.
Um, I like that you talk a lot about self-talk, and it's so important and it's so difficult to practice, because sometimes it's so unconscious or subconscious. You don't realize the things you're telling yourself, right? I write some post-its and I put them on my wardrobe.
Mhm.
That is like, you can be anything you want to be, and these kind of phrases to remind. But how can you why do you think self-talk is important, and how can you really practice that?
Well, it's funny that you asked, because I'm writing a book on that. That's what that book is about.
Oh,
And so we're doing a lot of research on this, and that's why we brought on a third co-author, that's a behavioral scientist, and is helping us bring some science to this question. Um, and I'm actually really excited about some of the work that's being done on it. Um, Look, I think we all have. Um, I actually am learning that not everybody has this. Not everybody talks to themselves, which I think is bizarre. But look, I think we all have. Most of us have conversations with ourselves, and I think most of us. I call it that we have two yous. There are two of us, right? Not in a crazy way, not like we're out there talking to ourselves in the street,
yeah.
and wandering around, insane. But I think we do have two voices, and and the original title was The Warrior and the Worrier, and we're going to work on that because I don't want to alienate people. But I think that does sum up the conversations that we have. One of our conversations is, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go get it, I'm going to be successful. And the other voice that's there is saying, I don't know, Rhett, I'm not so sure about that. You didn't do that very well last time. And so we're having this mental baggage, right? And or this mental conversation. And so I think we've got to learn some self-awareness, and we've got to learn how to get listen to that and recognize when we're doing that, and when we can sort of stop a minute. And one of the things that I've used in my and when I need to get control of it again is I take out a journal, I'll take out a notebook, not very fancy, just a little notebook that I carry around with me to write down notes and other things I'm thinking about. And I say, okay, I'm having this conversation about what I'm going to do on this issue, and I've been having this negative conversation. So I write it down and I make a note of it. And if I have time at that particular moment, I'll say, okay, let me try to rephrase that self-talk, right? Let me put that in a more positive way. And it's all right to question yourself, but it's not all right to beat yourself up about something, right? I think that's different. Questioning is fine, but beating yourself up about something is not healthy. And so I try to write it down. I try to make a note of it, and I try to rephrase it in my brain so that I become more self-aware of that conversation, and I'm not letting it rule my decisions, and I'm not letting it sort of frame my attitude or the way I respond to something, or right. I try to catch it, and then when I catch it, then I can do something about that conversation. So the book is going to be exciting in that sense, because I think we're going to give people some real tools to be able to do that. And one of the phrases that we came up with, and I love, is called mental junk food, right? So if we all like junk food while we're watching a movie or whatever, right? But if you continually feed your mind mental junk food, right? If you continually put that junk, we all will keep eating that chocolate if there's a plate of it right there. Right. So if you keep feeding yourself that, your attitude and your actions and the things that you do are going to be impacted. No doubt about it. It's just, it is what it is. So you've got to learn to get yourself off of that mental junk food and actually put healthy food in, right? And therefore you're going to have healthy results. So it's the same that's the analogy I would use for that. A lot of that is, the other thing that helps is around who you surround yourself with, right? I know I have people in my life that just suck the energy. You hear this big sucking sound of energy that happens, right? And I know when I'm around those people that my attitude is different, my words are different. You got to change who you're around if you want better conversations in your own head, and if you want better conversations in general, and better energy, So that's something else that we talk about in the book, but I think that's something else that's important when the conversations you're having with yourself are not positive.
Yeah. And I love that. I'm not sure how alienating that word can be. It's so funny. Last year, I told myself, I kept that word warrior in my head. Whenever I had to face a no, whenever I had to face, because it was so hard, right, at the beginning, to face no's from potential customers and, no's from partners, and every no was a slap in the face. And I would keep telling myself, I'm a warrior. So it's super funny how that's the word in the book.
Yep.
We have a first question from Salah. Salah is tuning in from France. Hi, Salah. He's saying, taking decisions in a short time is better in times of crisis, right? Not spending weeks to decide how to move strategically.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's one of the things I do want to tell you. If you've got tough decisions to make, I was just working with a client of mine in my coaching and consulting practice, and I told him this 2 months ago. If you have hard decisions to make them now. And he keeps dragging them on and out, and now he's just gotten into a worse financial position. And if you've got to make those tough decisions, make them now, because you want to survive. Your mission as the head, as the leader or the of the organization is to survive. And
Right.
if you've got those tough decisions, you've got to look out for the organization first. Make those tough decisions early, so that you can give yourself some runway or some highway to survive and get down and get further down this path that we're in, that we're all going through right now. And yeah, absolutely make them now. Make don't you know, we all as leaders feel bad when we have to make tough decisions, um, that are going to maybe hurt people. I get it, but at the same time, you've got to survive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you, Salah. Please send us your questions. Tell us where you're tuning in from, because we love to know where you're coming from. I have another question, because we were just entering into a territory that I love talking about, which is habits.
Mm,
You were just
okay.
saying the people you surround yourself with, the talk, the self-talk, right? Um,
Yeah.
you wrote a best-selling book about habits for entrepreneurs, right? So tell us,
Yeah.
what are the habits that you think are most important, especially in this context today?
Wow. I mean, I had 52 chapters in the book, so there are a lot of them. We could do a whole semester
Yeah.
university class on that. Um, you know, there are some that I learned that I think are good for everybody. Number one, I think it's by knowing your why. So if you know why you're doing something and why you're doing something in business, if you know, and it's tied back to your business purpose and to your personal purpose for doing it, um, then I think that that's really important. So knowing why you're doing something, your people, your staff and your team knowing why they're doing something, what they're working towards, what their role in it is very, very important. And I always start all of my consulting and coaching programs with a personal mission statement, and that personal mission statement ties your business and your personal life together in ways so that we figure out what's important to you in both. Um, Managing your time right now, I know that I was just thinking about this morning. I'm way overcommitted to like Zoom calls and like these seminars and webinars and all this other stuff. And I don't feel like in the last 2 months I've had time to like think. And so I think managing it, I need to manage my time better and really decide, okay, what's important, what's going to move my business forward, what's going to move my brand forward, what's going to move my services forward, and make decisions based on that, not just on I like doing this, and I'll do this, and then maybe I'll do this, and so managing your time is, I think, truly critical um, to integrating. You know, people talk about work-life balance. I don't think there's anything such as work-life balance. I think it's more like, how do you integrate your life into work, and vice versa. Like, how do you integrate is, I think, a more appropriate way to think about it. Learning to say no, and that sort of plays off the learning to say no. Um, I'm a I like saying yes.
Hmm.
I'm you know, I've been in charge of sales in my company, you
Yeah.
know, and I like to, so as the salesperson in me likes to say yes. So managing this, but the CEO needs to say no.
Yeah.
The CEO needs to learn how to like manage the time and like the money. So that's a challenge, but I think that's a good habit. And not saying no just to say no, but actually tying what you say yes to and no to based on your goals and your purpose, I think is really, really important. Um, and here's the other thing that I think is really, really important: uh, personal and professional habit that is that a lot of people are saying, talking. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
Um, um, I thought it was off, but is about growing your network and your brand, and actually making and this is the one takeaway I want people to have right now, um, is work on your network and work on your brand right now. And don't think that because I do good work and maybe I write good content, maybe I make great videos, maybe I have really good things to say. Um, don't think that just because you do good work, that people are going to know about it. You've got to promote it. You've got to promote yourself. You got to promote just because you have a really great product doesn't mean anybody's ever going to see it or want it or need it or think they need it. Um, you might solve the biggest problem in the world, but if you don't market it and you don't tell people about it and get it out there, that they're never going to see it. So like make a real effort and put a lot of time into building your brand, your thought leadership and things, sell yourself, get over the whole, like, I don't like to sell myself kind of thing. Get over it, because in this world, you've got to. I mean, there's so much out there. There's so much noise. There's so much stuff. Like if you don't get over that, if you don't get over yourself in that, then it's going to be really hard to be successful and sell a product, because you've got to do that today. So that's the big takeaway from me, is that I've had to get over my, like, oh, I write good content and the world will see it. If I put it out there, the world's going to see. That doesn't work today, I don't think.
Right, right. I love what you said about having a personal mission statement. What does that look like?
Because it's personal, it's up to you what it looks like. But I think that for me, there's several elements in it. I've got personal goals in there. I've got things that I will not compromise on. So, for example, in mine, I'm not going to work with anybody or with a company, or I'm not going to do work for a company I don't believe in. Like, if I don't believe in your mission and your purpose, you might offer me all the money in the world to be your consultant or your coach. But if what you're doing, I don't agree with philosophically, I'm just not going to do it. Right. Because I don't want that. I don't want that negativity in my life. And I've worked with enough assholes in my life that I don't want to do that anymore. And I'm just not going to do it. Right. Number one, that's in my personal mission statement, that, like, this is the kind of work I want to do. Part of it is I love to travel and I love to see the world. And I want my kids to have a larger worldview than I did when I was growing up. I grew up in a small town. In a place, and so I want them to see the world. I want them to have a larger worldview. So that's part of my personal mission, is to make sure that they see and enjoy the world and see it for all its beauty. That's part of my personal mission statement. The kind of work I'm going to do and want to do is in there. So that's what mine looks like. And it's also there to remind me and keep me accountable. Like I have some of my hobbies and things I love to do that make me who I am. That's in there. So when I look at that and I say, you know what, I haven't been doing that hobby that really makes me light up, right? It's sort of an accountability to what I believe and what I want my life to be. And so that's why it's important, I think, for me to have it, because it's a guide.
Right. Right.
You know,
right.
To answer your question, like when you have a tough question, if you have a personal mission statement, if you have a tough ethical question or a tough question that you're struggling with, your personal mission statement should help you answer that question.
Right. Right. Kind of like a compass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess also differentiating from your business and your startup and you as an entrepreneur and as a person, because we frequently confuse those things and turn, my mission as the founder of Startups Without Borders becomes my life mission. And then I forget about this whole other person I am. Right. Now, you said something that caught my attention. Think small for big results. And this is kind of, it contradicts what we usually hear about thinking big and dreaming big. And can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a big picture thinker, right? I'm like an idea generating machine, like factory. Like I spit out ideas, like, and that's just me. That's my personality. That's like who I am.
Yeah.
And I got lucky in business because and this was not by design at all. Um, he was a like really detailed person, like
Mm-hmm.
runs the life by spreadsheet and by facts and right. So we made a great partnership,
Right.
right? And we got really lucky. But what I started kind of thinking deeply about in this is that um, I was the big picture thinker. He was the detail thinker, and I don't want to say, I don't like the word thinking small, because I think if I rewrote that article now, I think I would probably rewrite the title, because it's not really thinking small, it's thinking in details,
Right.
because details are what actually get you from here to there, right? It's
Right.
like, uh, I don't know, people probably don't remember, I'm aging myself a little bit, but they probably don't remember the days before GPS. But I remember you going on a family trip, right? And you'd have your map out, spread out all over the place, and you're trying to find your route,
Yeah.
right? um, that's like running a business. You've got to have that map spread out on the table, and you've got to have like the detail on what turn to take, right?
Mm.
Nobody starts out, well, I kind of like doing it, but it's not normal to start out on a trip with no destination.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't start a business out without a destination and without a map and how you're going to try to get there. There's always a
Mm-hmm.
detour, and there's always road construction, and there's always like, you always have to like change the plan, but you got to have one. Um, and that's what I meant by
Yeah.
that, is like, pay attention to the small stuff, because that's what really matters. And if
Yeah.
you have to bring on somebody to help you do that, to help you focus in on the little minutia that you have to do every day, that's where you really get the big results. And I'll say this final thing about that. Like, we kept spinning our wheels for those first couple of years. When the recession hit and we left Toy Fair, it was the one thing that made us absolutely stop, because all we had been doing for a couple of years was this hustle, 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 work, 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 and we never stopped to think, and we
Right.
never stopped to focus on the small stuff. And when we had to stop our business to recalibrate and figure out how we were going to scale this to now like take this thing nationally, instead of like just getting in our van and delivering a few hundred pieces, um, that's when things really started to change for us as a business and as leaders. And we sort of grew up right then. But when we started paying attention to that small stuff and we had to think in details, that's when big things can happen. So it's good to think big and have those big dreams and have your eye on it. Thinking small helps you actually keep your eye on it so that you can get there.
Right, right. We have another question from our audience. So Mona is asking, when is the best time for a solo worker to take such a stance? What kind of security is needed? I'm guessing she refers to what we were previously saying about habits and about becoming an entrepreneur.
So rephrase that again.
So she's asking, when is the best time for a solo worker to take
Okay.
such a stance? What kind of security is needed? Or probably it was rather about the personal mission statement, right?
I think, there's a lot of opportunity. I think in terms of, if you're asking when you should start your business, you think that's the question?
Either, so Mona, if you want to give us more details, whether it is when you should go out and venture as an entrepreneur or have a personal mission statement that you're creating for yourself, because I think it could go both ways.
Yeah. Look, I think this is a great time to start a business. I think we all have to think of ourselves and our security. Look, the fact of the matter is, the next couple of years are going to be brutal.
Mhm.
And every economist I talk to, and everything I'm seeing, is this recovery is going to take a long time. Even when we get a vaccine and the business somewhat returns, like, not everybody's going to return, and not everybody's going to have opportunity out of this. That's a reality. So
Mhm.
some of it depends on your industry. Some of it depends on your stability. Like, I'm not a proponent of going out there and risking everything. I manage my risk, right? So when I started my business, Yes, cashed in my retirement and everything else, but my wife had a job,
Right.
right? She had a really good job. And so if I what I knew is if I completely failed, then we weren't going to be on the street starving and my two little boys were going to be like out on the street begging. Like
Mhm.
I knew like there was some security in behind what I was trying to do. Like if you have that and you feel like you're in a comfortable spot, give it I mean, absolutely go out and try to like, follow your dream. I mean, if you don't have that and you have to like start slow, again, start slow, like keep your job. And I mean, what I say to people all the time is, look, your dream is yours. You own it, and you have control over whether you succeed at it or not, to an extent. But you got to be willing to pay the price. If you're not willing to give up the, I mean, I was seeing something the other day. Americans watch 4 or 5 hours of TV a night, right? If you're not, I don't know about Europeans or in Asia and the Middle East. I don't, but I know in the world we watch a lot of TV,
Yeah.
right? We do a lot of things that are a waste of time. If you're not willing to give up some of that to start your business, like work your full-time job and then do your side hustle at night or whenever you can on the weekends or whenever you have time. Like if you're not willing to give up some of that, then you're maybe not ready. Maybe it's not the right dream. But I do believe that you have to sacrifice and have skin in the game and be willing to like go all in. And um, everybody's equation on how they can make that work is different, but you do have to be willing to lose it and give everything you have. I mean, I think that way, um, I gave up my retirement for the business. I gave up everything I'd saved. So for me, like quitting wasn't an option.
Right.
That it was going to really suck to have to completely start over at 35, right? And so that's where that came from.
Right. She
So
just commented again. She's saying it's about the personal mission. So when should a solo worker who may not be an entrepreneur may start thinking? When should they start thinking about their personal mission?
oh, anytime is a great time because that personal mission, and I'm willing to help her if she wants to reach out. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn and say we were in this conversation today. I can give you my template, my format. I think it's a great time to do it at any time, at any stage where you're thinking, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe I'm not doing what I need to be doing. If you're thinking about a personal mission statement, it's time to do one, right? If you're thinking, what does that mean? Where am I in the world? What's my place in the world? If you're having those kind of thoughts in your head, it's time to do one.
Right. These are the things that give me goosebumps because these kind of fundamental questions are questions we usually kind of postpone, right? We
Yeah.
look for everything else. That's why we watch other people's dreams taking place through the movies instead of making our own dreams come true. There's this fear, there's these yeah, yeah. Um, we were just entering another territory, which is decisions to be made in this context, right? You were just saying before, if you want to start now, if you're willing to make that decision of giving up on certainty, giving up on that security, um, what are the key decisions you think an entrepreneur should be considering today?
I think it's an interesting time. Like I think there's so much out there and so much opportunity. Um, you look at the way some of the drug companies are collaborating like they've never collaborated on anything before to come up with a solution to COVID-19. So I think that there's opportunity. I'm really optimistic about a couple things. Acquisition entrepreneurship. So if your company has been doing well and it's been doing well for a while, um, the opportunity to buy and do mergers and acquisitions and to acquire maybe a competitor or a company that's somewhere in your supply chain or in your vertical somewhere, is like there is no better time to have those conversations than right now. Like we were before this, we were in the golden age of acquisition for small business because the baby boomers are retiring, they're selling their businesses. There's just so much opportunity in that sense. And the way you find those opportunities, go to your attorneys and your accountants and your business lawyers and all those organizations, maybe business brokers, if you have them in your area, even word of mouth. Like there are a lot of businesses for sale, and you can get them for a great price. And a lot of people I'm speaking to, and a lot of what I'm looking at and thinking about is how can I grow through acquisition? And there's before this crisis hit, there was a lot of money in the market to do that with, and there was a lot of money. I mean, you can buy these businesses on their cash flow and on other. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity in that way. In terms of like getting through this crisis, I think a couple things to think about and talk about. There's a lot of bartering going on, like bartering of services. There's a lot of partnerships being formed. You support me and I'll support you to survive. There's a lot of collaboration going on that I'm actually really excited about. And so if you think about some of that in your as an opportunity, I was working with an organization that just popped up to help small businesses create websites, and it's a nonprofit, it's a charity, and like these 5 tech entrepreneurs who've been like rivals and competitors for years and years and years have come together to like help other small businesses create online platforms. Like if these people who are just like they butt heads all the time and they're like going after each other all the time, if they're seeing this as an opportunity to maybe change the way they do business and think about things, then any of us can really think about how we're doing it and who we partner with. And maybe it's time to make that partnership and that merger, right? Maybe it's time that you go across the city to your closest rival and say, hey, should we think about being partners in this, right? Because I don't like surviving through this by myself. I'm sure you're not having fun right now either. Can we maybe work together? You know? So I think that you've got to think completely outside of your normal. Wait, I tell you, this is how I think about today. This is day one of your business. Think of it. I mean, I remember day one of my business. I remember getting the keys to the building and walking in and saying, wow, I just like, wow. Like I remember that emotional feeling, right? This is how I feel today. This is day one again. So think of your business as if it's day one. There's no playbook. There's no business plan. There's no business model. You can blow it all up and start again and rethink the way you are, completely rethink the way you're doing it. And I think that's the opportunity.
Oh my God. Oh my God, what a way to end the interview. This is day one.
I think it is.
It's just, yeah, it's incredible to take that kind of position, which reframes your whole vision of the current situation, right?
Yeah.
As you're saying, this is the time to network and maybe partner with the least company that you would think to partner, a competitor. I love this advice, and I love how unexpected it comes. It personally has given me a lot of inspiration. So thank you so much, Rhett. It has been really, really insightful. Where can people catch you? I know that you're doing your Power Lunch interview. So where can people follow you?
Where's the sign? Power Lunch Live is powerlunch.live is the website. They can go there. Rhettpower.com is also another place they can find me. And we've got some new exciting, the new partnership that I'm in called Courageous Leadership, which is a new company that's being formed. So all this is going to kind of merge into that here pretty soon. But right now you can find me at rhettpower.com and then powerlunch.live. And thank you so much for letting me be on the show.
Thank you. Thanks to you. Thank you so much. And thanks to our wonderful audience tuning in from everywhere in different countries. We will see you again on Monday. Thank you so much and have a great weekend.